Not even one day after the most historic event in the history of finance, people like Jim Bianco are already calling the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve a failure, saying that there's going to be no new buying and that anyone thinking there's going to be any more Bitcoin in the reserve is just pure hopium. People like Rachel Maddow are calling it a scam and nothing other than a digital Beanie Baby.
I should say I'm by no means a crypto expert. I'm not going to give you a lecture on blockchain or meme coins or any of that. I don't know, and B, I don't care. But I do think it's worth looking at this crypto thing a little bit, only because it is a deeply, deeply old-fashioned, simple scam at this point, which points right to the White House. News from the White House tonight really gives us no choice. You have to look at it. Hopefully, the broad strokes of crypto trading are not complicated. It's like when there was the Beanie Baby craze in the late 90s. People started buying these stuffed animals.
Okay, 2019 called and they wanted their narrative back. You've got to come up with another narrative other than digital Beanie Baby when the president of the United States, the largest asset manager in the world, and other foreign nations are already calling it digital gold. Other people have already called Bitcoin a scam, like former Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. He said that Bitcoin was a scam and that we wouldn't be talking about Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at a price of $9,700 a coin.
You think we'll be talking about Bitcoin in 10 years from now?
I won't be talking about Bitcoin in 10 years, I can assure you that.
But you might be in at least 6 years as Treasury Secretary, as you just said.
Exactly. I would bet even in 5 or 6 years, I'm no longer talking about Bitcoin as Treasury Secretary. I'll have other priorities.
You'll be loaded up on Bitcoin and a gazillionaire.
I can assure you I will personally not be loaded up on Bitcoin.
Okay. Never say never.
The White House summit just happened on Friday. The process of adding Bitcoin into a strategic reserve is going to take some time. But it's pretty clear that the world's executives believe that there's Bitcoin and then that there's everything else.
Unfortunately, in recent years, the U.S. government has foolishly sold tens of thousands of additional Bitcoin that were worth billions and billions of dollars had they not sold them, but they did sell them, mostly during the Biden administration. Not a good thing to have done. From this day on, America will follow the rule that every Bitcoin knows very well: never sell your Bitcoin.
The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Executive Order highlights that the United States government cannot sell any more Bitcoin. But it also highlights that the Treasury Secretary and Secretary of Commerce, Lutnick and Bassett, have the ability to authorize budget-neutral plans to acquire more Bitcoin. In the last video, we discussed 4 realistic strategies. In this video, we're going to discuss 6 more, but also why it's going to happen much faster than you think. We're going to round out the strategy, silence the haters, and show them why they're going to buy more Bitcoin and do it in a hurry. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
There's only room for one nation state to buy up 20% of the network. And obviously, I think it should be the United States. I think it will be the United States. It's a way for us to enrich ourselves and emerge as a creditor nation in a matter of a decade. It's also a way for us to ensure that we're the economic leaders in cyberspace and the digital economy for the next 100 years. And if we do that, every one of our allies will follow us, and then all of our enemies will end up having to buy into the network once it passes 10 or 20 million a coin, and they will enrich us.
I 100% agree with Michael Saylor. There's only spot for one nation state to acquire 20% of the network, and I believe that it's going to happen very fast. For those of you who have never listened to Donald Trump and believe that the United States is going to be in second place to China for the largest strategic Bitcoin reserve in the world, you are absolutely fooling yourself if you think that's going to be a reality moving into the future. Here's the backdrop. China already possesses a ton of hydroelectric energy, and they also produce the majority of the parts that we need to run our Bitcoin economy. They're already holding up ASICs at the border, and they're making it difficult for us to get our lead in Bitcoin as a miner. So if you think that we're going to wait 8 months, 6 months, 12 months to build the biggest strategic Bitcoin reserve, you're out of your mind. But with that, let's get into the episode. Here's 6 more budget neutral ways for us to acquire more Bitcoin in the strategic reserve. Budget neutral option number 5. Selling or revaluing gold.
You know, we got off the gold standard a long time ago. My question is how much you would spend tax dollars at a time where we're talking about trying to reduce costs. How much would you spend on Bitcoin as part of this reserve?
We wouldn't have to spend any new dollars. We have reserves at our 12 Federal Reserve banks, including gold certificates that could be converted to current fair market value. They're held at their 1970s value on the books, and then sell them into Bitcoin. That way, we wouldn't have to use any new dollars in order to establish this reserve. The United States already holds over 200,000 Bitcoin in the asset forfeiture funds. So that would be the initial source of Bitcoin. So no new money spent on this reserve.
Selling gold out into the open market ain't gonna happen, especially not with Scott Bessent as our Treasury Secretary. But what we could do is revalue gold on the Treasury balance sheet from $42 an ounce to $2,900 an ounce, which would account for a surplus of about $800 billion. That's plenty to buy more Bitcoin. Option number 6 for buying Bitcoin in a budget-neutral way. Acquiring Bitcoin through the already found Doge savings in waste, fraud, and abuse within our own government.
Doge has uncovered $100 billion in waste. $100 billion, Sean. Imagine what we could do for American people who've been suffering, or schools that are indoctrinating and not educating our children, or a broken healthcare system, or crumbling infrastructure. Think of what we can do with 4 years of these kinds of fines.
I can think of what we can do with $100 billion in just a month after them being in office and implementing Doge policies. I mean, with the money that they've saved on watering 5 plants in the White House, they could have bought half a Bitcoin. Or savings out there like 35,000 ServiceNow contracts when they're only using 84 licenses. Budget neutral strategies are everywhere in the United States government. Turn over any rock and there's an opportunity to buy more Bitcoin. Budget neutral strategy number 7, cashing in SDRs for cash to fund strategic Bitcoin buys. We have the ability to acquire up to $160 billion worth of Bitcoin, according to David Bailey. So what are SDRs in the first place? Well, they're made up coupons made up by the IMF or the International Monetary Fund in order to help countries manage their reserves. You know who the IMF is? Yeah, those people that are trying to get El Salvador to not buy Bitcoin. It's like, hey, we'll give you a loan for a car, but you're not allowed to buy groceries ever, even with your own money. SDRs aren't actual money, but they can be exchanged for actual dollars in the system. And right now, the United States currently has 112 billion SDRs. At current exchange rates, that's worth about $160 billion. These things are highly liquid and have market value in the real world. So the Treasury could sell SDRs to another friendly central bank like Japan and get cash in order to buy Bitcoin. Budget neutral option number 8, sell crypto or crapto tokens for Bitcoin, the only real cryptocurrency asset. In the latest executive order, there's a line that says, the Secretary of the Treasury may determine strategies for responsible stewardship, including potential sales from the U.S. digital asset stockpile. Well, you know what's in the U.S. digital asset stockpile is a bunch of crappy tokens. ADA, Solana, ETH. All of these things are made up digital securities, as Michael Saylor likes to call them, or digital tokens. And you know why it's called a stockpile versus strategic? A suit is strategic. You hang it in your closet, you order it, it's kept nice and nice for the future. What about a stockpile? You think of socks and underwear laying in the floor with no order or no management. That's exactly how the United States thinks about these other tokens, and has already created provisions for them to sell those worthless tokens for the only meaningful token out there, Bitcoin. Before we go to budget neutral options to acquire more Bitcoin, number 9 and number 10, let's go to our sponsors. Speaking of not selling your Bitcoin, Ledin has lent out over $7 billion worth of Bitcoin-backed loans to over tens of thousands of customers. They were the first digital lender to provide a proof of assets and proof of reserves, and they've never lost a single cent or sat of customer money. They allow you to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin. The process to get a loan takes just a few minutes, and you can go to ledin.io/borrowing in order to see if you qualify, and you can get dollars or your local currency in your account in less than 24 hours. Go to ledin.io/borrowing in order to get started on your Bitcoin-backed lending journey today. Our other sponsor is the Bitcoin Way. They're the experts that help you protect your generational wealth, Bitcoin, the right way. They give you all of the steps and all of the guidance so that you can have confidence in self-custody by removing your Bitcoin from exchanges like Coinbase and becoming fully self-sovereign. They give you all the tools so that you can do this securely, confidently, and privately. Go to thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin to get a free 30-minute consultation with their team. That's thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin. Budget neutral option number 9 for acquiring more Bitcoin in a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Selling federal land to private companies and private parties. The U.S. government owns over 640 million acres of public land. You probably didn't know this, but they own about 28% of the total acreage of land in the United States total. And do you think, just by knowing the United States government, that they're using that efficiently, effectively, or at all? The answer is no. I'm certain that there are private home builders, people like Bill Pulte, the new head of the Federal Housing Financing Agency, who's also a Bitcoiner and thinks that Bitcoin's going to $1 million a coin.
What do you think Bitcoin's price goes to this year in 2021?
Well, I'll give you that, but I think that it's going to be $1 million a coin. And
okay.
Not this year necessarily, maybe not this cycle, but I think pretty soon it will be. If we get another momentum in the market, it's just my opinion, and you know these things, they trade with momentum. You know, even like MSTR stock, it trades with momentum. If we get an upward momentum, and let's say that there continues to be this high inflation print, you know, there's no ceiling to where it could go.
Scott Bessent and this Trump administration believe that owning a home is the fundamental part of the American dream.
We're not getting much credit. As of yesterday, energy prices were down 15%. Crude was down 15% since Inauguration Day. 10-year rates are down, mortgages are down. The spreads between the 10-year rate and mortgages have come in. We saw mortgage applications pop up last week. I think if we can keep on that trajectory, and Joe, the American dream is to be able to buy a house.
With this strategy, the United States government would be able to sell federal land, increase the housing supply, which would decrease the prices of homes, and this would make the American dream attainable for more Americans. Oh, and they can buy Bitcoin. That's a quadruple win, and one of the most realistic strategies out there. Last option for budget neutral strategies to acquire more Bitcoin. Accept payment for services or have debt repaid by foreign nations in Bitcoin. I've never understood this, but why does the United States take a currency as a form of payment that they can create out of thin air? The United States should start accepting Bitcoin for international debt settlements, for services and other things rendered by the United States to these other foreign nations that were not being paid for today. According to the U.S. Treasury website, as of 2023, the United States government was owed over $117 billion by foreign nations. According to the latest Treasury monthly statement, we're guaranteeing loans to Ukraine of $267 million, Israel for $895 million, and Tunisia for $600 million. These are under various foreign assistance programs. International monetary programs showed a credit position of $3.6 billion. The International Development Finance Corporation showed a credit of $8.1 billion. And foreign military loan programs had a net position of $16 billion. It seems like there's a lot of programs out there where we're helping to support other nations and other countries that they don't need to repay us in dollars, but in Bitcoin. Or if they're a country that's struggling financially but has abundant natural resources like Iran or Venezuela, or maybe even Russia. What if they were to use those natural resources to mine Bitcoin on the United States' behalf? This seems like a realistic strategy to me. And this rounds out the list of 10 tangible ways that the United States can create budget-neutral strategies to fund its Bitcoin strategic reserve that I think are pretty realistic if you step back and look at things. But here's the big picture of what's going on.
The most important thing to understand is that we bought 75% of this nation with about $40 million. So the United States expanded west. We bought Louisiana, we bought California, we bought Texas, we bought Alaska. It's property. If you think of Bitcoin as property in cyberspace, and you say, where is all the money in the world headed? Well, it's headed from foreign countries, China, Russia. It wants to go to cyberspace. It wants to go from the physical world to the digital world. So if you think about Bitcoin as cyberspace, then the logic behind a Bitcoin strategic reserve is not so much you're storing up Bitcoin, it's really that you're taking control of planting the flag in cyberspace, because the digital economy is going to be capitalized on Bitcoin. And if you get there first, before the AIs, before the foreigners, before the Europeans, the Africans, the South Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese, the U.S. can own it and benefit from it.
The United States is just implementing another portion or another chapter in its manifest destiny, where it buys the future and secures its position as the global leader. The nation-state race is on, and we're just at the beginning. If you think that we're going to be a second-place participant to China, you're absolutely insane. These budget-neutral strategies are going to get talked about and put in place faster than you think, and I think that they're going to happen in 3 to 4 months. But what do you think? I'd love to chat with you about some of these things in person down in Dallas, Texas at the BitBlockBoom conference from April 3rd through April 6th. Hear from me and some of your favorite speakers in Bitcoin, like Parker Lewis, Marty Bent, Guy Swan, Bob Burnett, Gary Leland, and many others. Learn how to buy your first Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin at home, or remove Bitcoin from an exchange, and then also meet some of your favorite Bitcoiners in real life at side events, which I'm sure there's going to be plenty, or events like the Saturday Casino Night, where I'm looking to have a good time, gamble with worthless fiat, and save so that I can stack some corn in real Bitcoin. If you haven't already got your all-inclusive ticket, go to BitBlockBoom.com and enter the promo code BBB25 for $100 off. That's BitBlockBoom.com and enter the promo code BBB25 for $100 off your all-inclusive ticket. I can't wait to meet you guys there. If you haven't already watched the last video, I suggest that you go back and watch them. There's a lot of people talking about are there actual budget-neutral strategies. And over these last 2 videos, I lay out 10 that are highly probable, and these are non-zero chances of these being implemented. If you get value out of these videos, please do like and share these videos with friends and family members who need a real source of Bitcoin alpha, or subscribe to the channel to get the latest updates yourself. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.